What's going on, YouTube? Back with another video. Just want to say I appreciate all the support and the love. Appreciate everyone that I've seen at the casinos, everyone that's dropped comments. It's actually getting pretty crazy. I go to Maryland Live and I go to MGM. Even when I'm not even playing poker, people came up to me and said, "What's up?" And I do appreciate it. Definitely gonna keep on grinding for y'all that are supporting me. But in today's video, we have a double session from both casinos. We have Maryland Live session and we have an MGM session. So let's just get right to the video. But you're already here. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the button right now. Like the video. It's going to be good. Let's get right to it. So in this very first hand at Maryland Live, we're sitting with a stack of about $300. There's an under the gun raise to $10. So I decided to call, and everybody else in their mama called. It's 6 ways to the flop, and it comes out 6 deuce 3. So we have second pair along with the gut shot to a straight, so that's not too bad. And of course, I'm going to check out a position, and it checks to the razor, and he decides to bet $25. And not exactly loving this spot, but it's $60 into the pot, so 25 is not that big of a bet. So I call with a gut shot, or a 5 would be good as well, maybe. And the big blind calls as well. So 3 ways to the turn, and it is a deuce, pairing the board. But once again, if my pocket fives were good on the flop, they're still good now. And if I hit a 5 on the turn, it's going to be good more than likely. So once again, we check, and the pre-flop razor goes all in, but it's only for $25, and for that price, it's even a better price than the flop. So at this point, I decided to put in the call, and so does the big blind. The river is a 6, and when it checks all the way around, I'm thinking that I have the big blind beat, and I'm just trying to compete against the pre-flop razor. However, the big blind shows 6-9, so he river trips and didn't bet to me. But he said that a lot of times I'm just going to have 4-5, so whatever. It is what it is. We lose a decent sized hand, the first one, but it is what it is. We're going to rebound next. So this hand, I have king 9 of diamonds, a decent hand. I raised it up to $15, and the small and the big blind decide to call. Off to a flop, it is ace 4 deuce with 2 diamonds. So we have the nut flush draw, and we are looking to get some value. However, when it checks to me, I just decide to check. The reason because a lot of times an ace is going to be reflected in small blind and big blind calling. So for that reason, they could have an ace more likely than you would think. However, I think I should be putting a bet here only 3 ways, and if they call, then I evaluate and see what I want to do on the turn. So as played, I check, and we're off to a turn, which is another ace. So now, when the small blind player decides to bet out for $20, I decide that his hand can't be too strong, so I think that my 9 or my king could be good outs. And I think that it's a spot where I should be raising if I don't think that he's strong. But I just decide to call, and we brick out on the river. It is the 8 of hearts. And when he checks, I could be putting a bet here, but I just chicken out and I check as well. And we lose to queen 4. So that sucks. Definitely could have got him off of that hand, but we played it very passively and we get bit for it. But got to move on to the next hand. And this time we will play more aggressively. So in this next hand, we have 7-6 of clubs, and under the gun, we raise it up to $15. You definitely could just be folding this hand under the gun because if somebody 3 bets, you don't want to be playing a suited connector out of position. So with that being said, I decided to go ahead and raise it up to 15. Next stack calls, hijack, low jack calls, and the button decides to 3 bet. However, it's a laughably small size. He only raises it up to $45. Reason why that's so bad is because there's 4 people already in the pot. So even if he were to make it 3x plus the dead money, that should be $105. So when he makes it $45, the worst thing that could happen happens as the big blind cold calls, I call, and every other player that called the 15 is in the pot as well. So we're going 6 ways to the flop, and we are off to a jack 6 deuce with 2 spades. So I check, and it always checks to the aggressor, and he decides to bet out for $135. Now, he could be doing this with an overpair, which is definitely in his range 3 betting because 3 bets are pretty rare in 1-3. And he could also have ace king of spades, so he has incredible equity versus the field. And when it folds to me, I do think about briefly calling, thinking that he might just have ace king. However, I just think against it because there's 4 other players that could have a better hand than me somewhere along the lines. So I just decided to fold, and it folds all the way around. The button takes it down, but he does show that he had pocket queens, and he got a pretty safe flop, about as safe as you can get, and he wins a really good pot because he won 45 times 5 callers. So That's over $220 for him after the rake. So nice hand by him, bad hand by me. Normally I would fold here because you can just get out straighted or out flush, or hell, with that many people I could get out tripped. So not really the best moment, but it is what it is. So we got to just move on, try to shake back. So it is at this point in the session I've had to buy back in for another $300. So I'm in for $600 altogether, and I have ace-3 of spades. And of course, this is not a hand I'm going to be folding. I'm going to be putting in a raise with this hand. So my standard size in live 1-3 is just $15. So that's the size that I go with at this very moment. And this $15 gets 3 players to call because we're always going so multi-way. And we are off to a flop, which is Jack 7-3 with only 1 spade. So I got a couple back doors and an overcard, and I'm going to see bet my whole range here. But the problem is I don't even get the chance, as before it even gets to me, the original raiser, this guy just decides to lead and go all in. Obviously, I was planning on c-betting as a semi-bluff. I don't get that chance. And when it folds to me, nothing else to do besides fold. I know this is not really eventful, but it's just showing you that I'm just getting my ass kicked in every which way. So I'm going to do what all poker players do, and it is time for a seat change. And let's see if we can change our luck. So we table change, and we call a raise with 9-7 of hearts. And we are 3 ways to a flop, which comes 10-9-7. So we have bottom 2 pair, which is a great situation. And the under the gun raiser decides to bet out for $15. I'm not going to play around. The board is so wet and connected. So I raise it up to $75. And he decides to go all in. It's about $100 total. And we're off to a run out as the other player folds. And the turn is an 8. So now any jack is a straight, and then the river is a queen. So obviously it's a very bad situation. The flush draw did brick out. However, he shows queen jack. He was opening on the flop and got immediate service on the turn. We do not boat up on the river, and we lose this hand, which is pretty much the theme of this vlog, but we still got more poker to play. So what better way to get back than a premium? We have pocket queens on the button. There's a late open to $15. I'm not going to play around with it. I'm going to go a little bit less than 4x. So I go up to only $55. And of course it folds all the way around to him. And he's thinking about it for quite a moment on what he wants to do. And of course he does the tank Hollywood and then goes all in. Obviously, me being so shallow, the all-in is only another $100. So I've already put in $55 on my stack, more than 33%. So I don't really have any 3-bet folds in this scenario. He could just have pocket jacks or 10s, maybe ace-king and just wants to go with it. So I snap it off, and of course, we are up against the stronger hand. He has pocket kings. So we need to spike a queen here, and hopefully we can get there. But no, the board runs out with a whole bunch of little cards, and I let the table know that I have pocket queens and that it was a cooler, just to let them know how bad I've been running. But at this point in time, I decide to leave, already down $700, and I don't feel like battling back at this point. So I'm going to go play blackjack like any degenerate and see if our luck changes there. But we got more poker to be played. We're going to MGM, and let's see what that has in store for us. So it is time to go over some app hands. Hand number 1, we have pocket aces, and we look at a raise to $12. Of course, we're going to 3-bet this up. I choose a sizing of 42. This is a little bit more than 3x. With a very strong hand that doesn't need protection, I don't mind raising a little bit smaller, even though there's players behind me to act. So we go to 42, and the player directly behind us decides to cold call. And when it gets to the original raiser, he is well called. So we are going 3 ways, monkey in the middle. And the flop is king 6-7 with 2 hearts. So I know nobody has pocket kings because they would have 4-bet for sure. So when it gets to me, I feel like at this point, being 3 ways, I'm not trying to target pocket jacks, pocket 10s. I'm really only going to get action from another king. So ace king, king queen, king jack suited perhaps. So I put out a pretty sizable bet in a 3-bet pot. I put out a bet of 85 into 132. That's about 65%, and I get the player directly behind me to go all in for 303. Don't exactly love it, but I'm never folding, so I don't even think about it. When the original raiser folds, I snap it off. If you got a set, then you got a set. And if you got a flush draw, well, we'll just see you on the river then. So we call, and we are actually up against pocket jacks. That was not the hand I thought I was going to run up against, but he's drawing very, very thin. He doesn't even have a heart. The turn is a clean queen, and the river is an 8. So we win that run out. The second run out is a 10 of hearts, followed by the queen of hearts. So good thing he doesn't have a heart, so we win that one. And that was a total overplay by that guy, but hey, I'm not complaining. Now let's go to the next hand. So now this hand, I definitely played pretty awkwardly. There is a button raised to $16. And in the small blind, I just called with pocket jacks. Yes, you heard me right. Just called with pocket jacks. Not quite sure why. Definitely would probably put in a 3-bet here in this spot, maybe 98% of the time. So I guess my 2% frequency hit for call. And here we are, and we get a pretty good flop from my hand. The flop is deuce 4-10 with 2 diamonds. So we check and flow, obviously. And it checks, and actually the player in the middle donks out for a sizing of 32, which is half pot, and the original raiser folds. So the original raiser probably just had some type of Broadway holdings and decided to get out of the way to this. And I just decided to call. I want to see one more card before I decide if I want to put all my money in. So I call, and the other player folds. So now we're just going heads up to the turn, which is a 6 of spades. So 3-5 does get there, but how unlikely is that? So now when I check, he bets out for $24 into a pot of 128. So that's only about a 1/6 sizing. So the easier to tell me that he's super strong or not very strong at all. So with this, I'm just going to put all the money in. If you're trapping me, then hey, you get the money. And I go all in, and he decides to call with queen 10. So he has top pair, medium kicker, and the river runs out clean on both runouts, and we scoop another pot from somebody overplaying. If you want to get on these app games, just drop a comment, or you can text me. My number is in the description, and I'll get you in the game. There's so many players overplaying their hands. It's pretty easy to profit. Just let me know. I'll get you in, but we're going back to the felt. So in this first hand at MGM, we're looking down at a beautiful ace-5 of hearts under the gun. So I raised it up to $15, and only the button is my customer. So we're just going heads up to the flop, and it's a pretty good flop. It is Jack 7 Queen with 2 hearts. So we have the nut flush draw along with an overcard, and on this flop I am going to be betting a little bit more than half pot. I put out a $20 C bet, and the button decides to come along. So now we are off to a very spicy 9 of diamond. And with that card, we decide that it's going to be very wet and connected. So he could easily have a lot of 2 pair, straight combinations, things of that nature. And I don't want to get totally blown off my equity. So I just decide to check, and he bets out for $50. Now, for this price, I could fold sometimes, seeing as that my ace might not even be good. So I'm really only drawing to 9 hearts. And the thing is, will I get called 100% if I spike my heart? Only if he has a very strong hand that he's representing. So I could fold here, but as played, I call. We see the queen. Unfortunately, it's the queen of diamonds on the river, and it goes check, check, and he shows he had Jack 9. So he flopped middle pair, turned 2 pair, and then got counterfeit on the river, but his counterfeited hand is still good enough to beat us. So we lose this one, and we're moving on to the next one. So moving on to the last hand of the MGM session. Hasn't been too eventful, but it's a pretty neat hand. We have pocket 4s in the big blind. Under the gun raises to $20. Pretty large opening size, but the next 2 players to act decide to call, and so there's a small blind. So I'm going to complete as well, try to set mine, and we are going off 5 ways to the flop, which is 7-6-3 with 2 diamonds. So I have a gut shot to the straight, but that's about all I got going on because I only got 3rd pair as it is. So when I check, it goes to the pre-flop raiser, and he decides to check as well, and the next act player only bets out for $30, and everyone folds. So when it gets to me, I could call and try to hit my gut shot. However, that sizing is just so small. I think if somebody had 2 pair or a set, that they would bet a lot larger on this really wet board. So I decided to raise it up to $125, and only person I'm thinking I have to get through is a pre-flop raiser, because I know the player who bet is weak. The pre-flop raiser could still very well have pocket aces, kings, or queens. Just it's very standard on a board like this, so multi-way for them to check with overpairs. So I wouldn't even be surprised if a hand like that folded, and he does fold, and when it gets to the other player, he decides to fold as well. Let me know what you think about this raise. I know it's kind of unorthodox, but the way I seen it is that bet seemed really weak. Everyone folded to me, and I know me raising puts overpairs in bad situations. And I know that the other player, if he was really strong, he's going to telegraph his hand and then 3-bet the flop. So with all that being said, I went with my read. But let me know if you think it was a punt or a good exploitative raise. But we're going to go to the outro and see how the sessions went. All right, that is it for the video. I appreciate everybody for watching. Once again, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. But let's go over some of the results. So the Maryland Live session, we got totally destroyed. We lost $700. That's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. And in the MGM session, we won $100. And in the app session, we won $700. So that should be a profit of $100. That seems pretty good, but obviously if you put over 30 hours into working and you make $100, that's not very much. That's like $3 an hour. So that is what it is when you're a gambler, and it happens sometimes. So definitely going to try to do better in the next video, but just to let you know, I found some content that I thought was lost to me, and I will be sharing it with y'all in the next video. It is going to be a pleasant surprise, and I cannot wait to share. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, and until the next video, holla.